And we live. I'm just checking both our streams to check. And you can take comments off these channels as well. So I'm just looking for that here.
Okay, I don't see it on Ready Steady Football Instagram.
Look at the icon on the top where the stories normally go. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's on YouTube now. I can see it on YouTube right now.
Okay, that's good enough for now.
YouTube is there. I'm just checking Facebook. And as we get comments in off those different channels, we can monitor those comments on the platform here as well.
There's nothing.
There's nothing. MK, did she say there's nothing on Instagram?
No, nothing on the stories section there on the top.
On the stories section, no, nothing.
I can't see it also.
Do you understand?
No, I don't.
Let's see why.
Okay, I see RFS test. That's live on YouTube, which looks
Yeah,
quite legal.
YouTube, we're there. I can see the YouTube. But I'm just checking on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram I can't access now because my phone is being used as the camera. Nothing still on Instagram, Jive? No.
So we have nothing on Instagram. No, nothing yet.
Not showing. Did everything according to the setup there. It's very strange. Why do I need to
and Dell, can you see anything on Instagram?
No, nothing.
Are you sure? You maybe got that karkanki in your eyes still.
Yeah, it's better now. After picking this team of the 90s and so many United guys, my eyes are sore. But unfortunately, it was a decade, because it was a decade dominated by United and I would say Arsenal. They were, Liverpool, we were absolutely shit and poor in the 90s. So,
United, I think I only got one.
You probably have about 10 Arsenal guys and one United guy.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Riza, you've got a very strong team, eh? So far, from what we've seen.
So Riza's team and my team has two differences. That's it. That's it. Sush, we need your team as well. I just need to speak to Ali and see regarding the overlays. If we're going to do each overlay as you're talking through each player, or we're going to do them like 4 players at a time, or per midfield, defense, attack at the same time, or we'll definitely do one graphic at the end with your entire team. So, Sush, we do need your team tonight. Riza, we've got yours. Jive, we need yours, and mine will send in. So, Ali and Sabia can prepare
Mine is on the group, MK.
Okay. So, they can then prepare the full 11, and they can prepare the graphic for the full team. So, in terms of the format, I think what we'll do is I'll do a short intro. I'll introduce all of you guys. Riza, you must let me know what I need to mention about you apart from what I know already, if there's anything extra. And then, we'll go through, firstly, your formation. Then we'll go through each player's position. So we'll go in whichever format, whatever your formation is, your goalkeeper, your right back, we'll go through each one, each of us, and then we'll go through the full 11 that way. You've got the option of 3 subs as well. So you've got 3 subs on your bench.
I have a quick question for Riza. Question for Riza. Keza, is he eligible as a player of the 90s, for a guy that obviously went to Lazio in the midst of it, is he deserving of a place in the 90 squad? Because I mean, Gaza was.
So here's a question: Did Cantona play the entire 90s?
Remember, we said in terms of eligibility for the program, we said a player must have played in the Premier League for at least 2 seasons during the 90s to be eligible. Obviously, if he played longer, that's a bonus for him. That gives him a stronger standing. But we needed to have a parameter for a player to be included in our 90s team. So I think 2 seasons was fair, considering the Premier League only started in 92.
Because I've got Gaza in my team, Sush.
Yeah, the boy that became a man.
Yeah,
as long as
Gaza in Italia 90.
As long as there was 2 seasons, I think that's good enough. That's fine.
Okay.
Gaza was in England for ages before he went to Italy.
Gaza he played for Spurs from 88 to 92. In 92, he left to Lazio.
Apparently, he was wearing a kurta there in England because of the current Newcastle situation. That's it's a man.
So
from
did
the
he not play
time.
in the Premier League? Did Gaza not play in the Premier League? Is that what you're saying, Jay?
It says 88 to 92, and then 92 he left for Lazio. But we cannot leave Paul Gascoigne out. It's like leaving Dr. Kumalo out of South Africa. It can never happen.
Of course you can. Of course you can. He was overage and he played himself down to like 5 years younger. I know.
Give me a second. I'll check on the Premier League website if he's listed as a Premier League on the. Yeah, but no, if he didn't play, you can't add him, eh?
Paul Gascoigne.
Ferguson laid claim to almost signing him for United. What a thing that would have been.
So this is it, right? Gaza played at the professional level for Newcastle from 85 to 88, Spurs from 88 to 92. Okay. He then went away to Lazio and Rangers and made his return to the Premier League in 98 to 2000. Okay, so that's 2 years. So Jive is not wrong. Jive is not wrong.
That does qualify. Okay.
He played for Borough, but Jive's selection of Gaza was based on
Spurs.
Pre-Lazio.
On his time at Spurs, pre-Lazio. Also, what was he formidable in the Euros? I mean, when football was supposedly coming home to England for the first time. Sorry?
96.
Right.
Euro
okay,
96.
So remember, yeah. At the time, he was a Rangers player. He wasn't playing in the Premier League. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you look at the tail end of the decade, he played 2 seasons at Middlesbrough, which, you know, if you look at the amount of appearances that he made in total, was only 41 out of at that stage.
4 goals, yeah.
Yeah. You know, so that, and does he qualify on the basis that it was within that decade that we're talking about? Yes. And I looked at him as well, and based on those stats, I thought there were other players more deserving for my team.
You got a point there, Riza, because during his peak, those 3 years, yeah, you know, when he performed, when he took the world by storm or Euro by storm, he was actually a Rangers player, and prior to that, he was at Lazio.
And then he was at Everton for a couple of years, and you know, if he got 1 or 2 goals, Everton was a lot, and then he finished off a
that was
career.
After Bayer,
yeah, you know, he made sort of a cameo appearance for Burnley. I think he probably played 4, 5, or 6, 7 times maybe.
Burnley, and then he went to some team called Gansu Tianma. Where's it? China.
I think it was somewhere there.
Yes,
and I don't think
China.
he played.
4 games, 2 goals in China.
And then he played for Tamworth or Boston or one of those teams.
Boston United.
Class player, nevertheless.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
X-Factor player. He's an X-Factor player. Jive?
Yeah, no. So can I add him in my team, or do I have to change?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, because
you can have him in your team because he was in the Premier League for 2 seasons. But whether he was at his best in the Premier League or his best came after, that's another debate. But technically, you can have him in the team, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the criteria, or rather, wasn't how many pints of lager he downed the night before, right? So, you know, he played. You know, if you mention, you know, the decade and, you know, 2 seasons Gaza was, and, you know, I don't know if anybody on this forum actually remembers if he was formidable or not. All I do remember about him coming back to Borough was that he was a massive big name player. He played in front of the likes of Southgate, and he played with George Boateng and the like in the team, and they were gonna go places. And if I'm not mistaken, they'd win a League Cup in and around somewhere around that period. But he was more injured, and he made more headlines in the Sun and the Daily Telegraph for his shenanigans on a Saturday evening after a football game. You know what I mean? But he was brilliant to watch. I mean, you know, you just think about just prior to that, he was the star of '96, and unfortunately, England didn't get through. I mean, Southgate's penalty still haunts England today. But to put it into context, if you're talking about Gaza, when you look at an up-and-coming hopeful in the England setup, an international setup like Jack Grealish, £100 million player, gone off to Manchester City, and everybody knows what he's capable of. And every football writer wants to write that this guy is the best thing since Gaza. And that's the benchmark. And lots would say, okay, he's not there yet. Okay. So I wouldn't argue with Jive's selection, to be fair.
Sorry, I was just testing the comments from YouTube. Somebody comments on the YouTube page, we can have it come up on the screen. So that's okay, that's cool as well. It's another feature that works nicely. Awesome.
So in order to see the YouTube live, must you just subscribe?
Whoever subscribed to YouTube, they would be able to, or whoever's not subscribed either should be able to watch it. It goes live automatically at the time we set it to.
Yeah, so just be careful with will you take a back comments, eh?
So just remember, we obviously do countdown before we go live, and you'll know when we're going live. Yeah. So just obviously.
But are we?
Sorry,
are we marketing it the whole of? Are we marketing it the whole of tomorrow so people can tune in?
Yes, we have to. We're waiting for the graphic from Ali and Sabia right now. So we've sent that out. Then we can all send it out on our social media channels.
Riza, if you're wondering why we're laughing like that, we had a lot of bloopers on our last show where for like 10 minutes we just continued laughing in the show, in case you're wondering why Jive is laughing.
All right. I missed your last show, to be fair. So.
Yeah, no, but they cut it out in the show. But you know, at one stage we just couldn't talk because they called Ronald Koeman Coogan and stuff like that.
Not days. The problem was Swoosh Riza. He's our Gaza. He comes straight from the pub, you know. So I don't know.
Look, you got to be yourself, right, Riza?
Naseem, I've known you for many years, and I probably know your father better than I know you. But if you were anything else, I'd be disappointed. Okay, so
no, thanks. Like I said,
be the Swoosh that I know for a long time.
Like I said, I cherish that experience of meeting a lot of the guys in 2010 with you. You know, we met a lot of the guys we've seen on TV, and we actually met them up front and had like a full-out conversation with these guys, which was quite nice.
So let me tell you about that, right? It was, you know, at the time, there's a lot of planning that went into it, okay? And, I mean, you know, the year before, at the Confeds Cup in South Africa, so a lot of the guys came out to do some of the, you know, a lot of dress rehearsals and the testing of, you know, the broadcasts, networks and all that kind of stuff. So when you talk about the Mandela Square, okay, and that's where we were quite visibly present a lot of the time in 2010 was that was all planned. So there'd be the old BBM messages and emails and things that I'd have with a lot of the the former footballers at the time who had come out. I mean, we're talking about Andy Townsend guys. All right, that's where we're going to meet, because the Mandela statue was, it was a brilliant landmark. It was the easiest way to say, okay, let's meet at 11 o'clock before you go upstairs and do your, your bit of, that kind of stuff. So, and ESPN, as you know, were above. So yeah, that's why it was the best place to be, because a lot of the guys converged, and a lot of them stayed in the hotel right upstairs, right next door.
Yeah. So
it was just easy to meet. And again, from a non-footballing side, a lot of those guys were my personal friends over the years. So it was good to see them after a long, long time, especially the guys who had left Aston Villa and gone on to play at other clubs. I hadn't seen them for a long, long time. So yeah, that's how that happened. But it was good. I remember that fondly. But I tell you, the one thing that I do remember fondly from the World Cup, Nassim, is you walking around with that fake World Cup trophy.
Look, that was the real one.
I'm telling you, there are thousands of people around the world who have got mementos of having taken the World Cup trophy and held it in their hands. I mean, it's brilliant. It's nice. Outside FNB Stadium, you're always there with it. So, top
no, that trophy.
I just want to ask Riza a question, man. My right back, I've got the Dan Petrescu of former Sheffield Wednesday, and then he went to Chelsea, the Romanian.
Yeah.
Am I in the right bracket there?
Dan Petrescu. Let's just check. I'll double check.
Because in the formation I was playing, I was looking obviously for a fullback that's going to push high up, and I know you said Lee Dixon, but although I support Arsenal, I just thought
Jive, you wanted to be different, like you're a typical Arsenal fan,
When I look at Dan Petrescu, he's got different type of qualities, man, because he could play as a number 2, he could play as a number 7.
So you wouldn't be wrong if you put him into that bracket for the decade that we're talking about, because he started off at Sheffield Wednesday in '94, played 2 seasons, 37 games, 3 goals. He then went off to Chelsea, where he was fantastic, and he spent 4 seasons there and 150 appearances, 17 goals. So from a qualification perspective, yes. And what I like about you doing, I mean, if you went anywhere and you looked at the 90s and you spoke to, our pundits of today who are familiar with the game, you don't even have to go as far as England. Go to our local guys. I'm talking to Sean Bartlett's and Mark Fishers and the guys locally who followed football in those days. They wouldn't be very different from Khalid and my okay. But what I like about what you did is you're giving it a different flavor. You didn't go for the flavor in the norm. You've tried to throw a couple of names in there that help create, or help popularize and give the Premier League its credibility and its, that showmanship that we wanted to see and watch during the 90s, because it changed the face of football, we see today. So great. I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong team that anybody's going to pick, really, because if you're picking players, against the qualifying criteria and they stood out for you, sure, why not?
Well, yeah.
Like, I'm looking forward to the show.
Please don't come with a full MKV. Please don't come with a full United team. And
no, you'll be surprised. Swoosh, please tell. Surprised. I've got a very balanced team of the 90s. Eh? I've got one.
Swoosh, please tell him. Yeah.
There's only 5 or 6 United players in the team.
Okay,
only.
Please.
It's a pity Jive wasn't there. Arsene Wenger was also in the Sempton area that time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you met him.
In 2010, I worked for Nike, so I managed to spend a lot of time with him at the Nike Center when they launched Nike Stadium in Soweto.
Yeah.
And Arsene Wenger, he was I don't know if he's still, but that time he was the coaching ambassador for Nike. So that's when
he was a brand ambassador for that period in time, because my brother was the head of Nike apparel at the time. And what they did was, obviously they had a big name attached to that, specifically for the period of the 4 weeks of the World Cup. Hey, but you talk about seeing him, and you're seeing footballers walk down, and hey, swoosh, I'd let you know that I also had ice cream with a late former Villa and Liverpool manager, Gerard Houllier. When I talk ice cream, you know exactly what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
now, there were a lot of managers on that ice cream table when I walked into the Michael Johns. But I want to share one for me, a quick one. When I was walking out and I checked Platini, and I said, Michel, bonjour, wait till you come to Bloemfontein. South Africa will beat France and we'll send the French home. And he looked at me like, who's this mad likely, with the Italy top. And he told me, I had a brief chat with him, and I said, Michel, you don't underestimate the fans in Bloemfontein. You know what I'm talking about, the Bloemfontein Celtic fan. And you know what? Okay, look, the French were in Desiree at the time, but I had a go at Platini, and you know what? I was accurate. I said, you guys will go home. So
yeah, and at the time when you mentioned that you didn't know how important that game was for South African football, because had we scored one more goal, or had they not scored, we would have gone through.
Would have gone through.
Yeah. Well, you know what happened? I mean, the entire French team went back. I mean, it was a shameful arrival because they were all downgraded to cattle class.
There were huge repercussions in France. In fact, if you watch the documentary on Anelka that was on Netflix a while ago, Anelka Misunderstood. A big part of that was focusing on the French team in South Africa here. Anelka was one of the scapegoats. In fact, the media in France lied about him. And afterwards they admitted it was a lie, but by then everything was done and dusted. He was the scapegoat they needed.
It's a pity because, the French, they always rock up at a tournament, and Jive is a French guy, French fan. They either rock up at a tournament well prepared or in total disarray and have an early exit. That's the French.
Well, I think when you talk about, France's shameful bowing out of that tournament and how pear-shaped it went for them, I mean, a lot of the blame was attached to Patrice Evra, who had a very visible confrontation with a coach at the time, who 2 seasons or a season after that, actually, funny enough, came over to Aston Villa as a coach, and he didn't last 6 or 7 months there with us. Take out of that what you like, but I'm not suggesting that Patrice Evra was right, but that camp broken before they even boarded the plane to come to South Africa.
Completely. And there was a lot of undertones in terms of what was happening in France at the time. With the players, where certain players were kind of being, Anelka was one of them. Anelka was actually blamed for the entire fiasco.
Yeah, there were a lot of players. I mean, there's a lot of players in the French setup that were, I mean, just think about it. They won the World Cup. They won the Euros. Okay. So there was evolution, with respect to French football. Okay. And then South Africa comes, and the preparation wasn't great. Yet they still left out quite a few players that, should have been in this, given them the opportunity to challenge. And I don't think we'll ever know if the inclusion of those players would have made a difference to the outcome of the World Cup, in our country. And I think for us as South Africans, we shouldn't ponder too much. I mean, just the fact that we're the only African country to date that has still hosted the World Cup. It was a very successful tournament. I mean, every one of us, we saw each other, every time there was a game, we were all in and amongst the mix. Good to see Khalid in South Africa for a change. You're not watching football on TV when Bafana were playing Denmark in France. Yeah, Khalid, I remember that. It was great. It was good. And, the World Cup final itself might not have been the best game to watch. There was a World Cup final that was won on our soil and not too far away from where, from where all of us live. I mean,
euphoric. Look, there's a Bafana flag flying outside Jive's house after the 6-pointer against Ethiopia.
Hey, brilliant, right? I mean,
yeah.
Who do
and
we,
he's patriotic.
Do we go to Ghana now and go to Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah, but we say because there's 10 groups, if I'm not mistaken. So the winners of each group will go into another, basically one game playoff. So another draw, and then to get the top 5.
So it's still a long
but look,
way.
look, Ghana beat Zimbabwe. So currently we lead Ghana by, I think, 2 points. I think the decider is going to be South Africa and Ghana in Ghana. That for me is going to be the decider who wins the group. And it also depends if Ghana decides to come with, the Thomas Partey's and the Ayew brothers and everyone else included. So
South Africa go to Ghana and we get a favorable result.
Yeah,
we nullify Ghana, right?
Yeah.
And then all we basically need is a draw against Zimbabwe away.
Yeah. So we play our last game. I think is Ghana away. Am I right?
In Accra.
We're playing on Tuesday against Ethiopia, which let's hope the Ethiopians don't turn it around.
What's your views on the current coach, Jive? Or will we change him like how they change jockeys?
He was actually the coach of Belgium's team that did very well in the 1986 World Cup. Do you remember that Belgium team?
Nico Klaassen.
They went out to Argentina in the quarters.
But look, there's a few comments that he's made over the last few weeks, which I think is spot on. And one is our clubs tend to worry more about the clubs than football in a country and on its whole. A lot of clubs don't want, especially your bigger clubs, they don't want South Africa to progress, and that's obviously because of the politics with the powers that be. I don't even want to mention them, but and that's the biggest problem we have is the split between PSL and SAFA. That's point one. And MK, so on your question of what I think he's done a very good thing. If you look at the players he's brought in, look, for me they're very average footballers. If I look at the days I was brought up watching South African football and playing, I don't think they would have made the third team. But the good thing is he's giving them an opportunity. He's not worried about which club they come from. There's very few like your Chiefs and Pirates type of players. He's picking them all around. And the good statement he made the other day is if he has players of the same quality, he's going to go with the younger one, which he's done that. And so far so good, and that's what players want. Players want to be picked on merit. And so the good thing about this Bafana team, there's no one, I promise you, there's no one you're going to pay 100 rand to go and watch. But maybe as a team, they'll gel, But if it's someone that's going to take you off your seats like a Shoes Masho or Zayn Musa or someone who will bring life to you, no, there's nothing like that. But I think they have a good team spirit going there.
Guys, I must tell you, I'm actually embarrassed because right now during this chat, it's the first time I actually found out that
Bafana have a new coach.
Hugo Bruce, and the assistant coach is Jedomir Janevski.
Yeah.
Forgive me. And that's a crying shame, to be honest, because, we're doing a test of 1, 2, 3 year to talk about English football in the 90s, and we know so little about our own game.
Yeah.
But
to be honest, well, I'm partly guilty for that as well. I mean, in the 90s, we could name that Bafana team back to front, with the second 11, each position, everything back to front. I think because of the pathetic state of South African football, people have just switched off. I'm one of them. I'll
ask me
for interest's sake, but in terms of
if you ask me now, name a Bafana player, I'd go Percy Tau and feel great about it, and that's the only player I know.
And he wasn't even he didn't even play over the weekend. He wasn't even in the squad.
Is Keegan Dolly in the team?
No, Keegan Dolly is not. He's about 20 kgs overweight, Keegan Dolly, but he's still he's a Chiefs.
But there's good another show, obviously, with the evolution of SA football that we're going to have and we have to have, because if you look at 96 and the spirit, and even as the fans, it was one, and then politics reared its ugly head or whatever. We'll discuss this, Jive, like we discussed in other show, and the demise of SA football. Like you said, an interesting thing is role models. That time, like you say, we had the role models. We used to wake up, scream shoes, fish, Eric Tinkler. Now, no role models for the kids. But that's another show that we
Sima, you're referring to at the time when football was momentarily revolutionized in our country. Are you talking about the time when we were readmitted after the cultural boycotts and our first real big game that we played, and the guys that were picked? I mean, Kumalo sticks out because he was the player at the time. When we played Cameroon, which was the first ever game.
The first official game. Yeah. I think closer to Risa, between 95 and 98. Obviously, the pinnacle being 96 when we won the Nations Cup. But the team we had from around 95 onwards. I mean, the matches.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about players like Roger Links, who people don't remember. Okay, we forget that our own Gora Ibrahim was very close to actually being, and if it weren't for injuries, he would have been formidable, right? I mean, there were so many players at the time, and we were spoiled for selection. Okay, in terms of your best 22, 23, and I remember when we won our first African Nations Cup hosting, we won it. I remember then already how eager we were. I mean, the stadiums were packed. I mean, we'd go to FNB Stadium, and we'd all just cram in there. We know there were, I mean, there were some occasions where that stadium took more than what it should have had. But we just crammed in and we got on. And what we wanted, we felt South African, right? And we felt really proud. And we enjoyed that success and then qualified for the World Cup. And then we also had a few other African nations cups and I think Egypt beat us in the final immediately after that one as well. And all of a sudden, that interest, as you guys point out, was like, we were there and everybody just wanted Bafana. We were so proud to be South African and we see our country play. And we go off to the UK and we watch ourselves get beat 2-1 at Old Trafford by an England team at the time when we're at their peak, and a dodgy dodgy refereeing decision denies us a share of the spoils in that game. And and we're playing all over, we're going all over the world and we're playing games and they're testing players, against different conditions. And then there's this European football market that say, let's go and get South African players, and we've got our best players going abroad. I mean, we know who they all are. And then it just discussed it.
It started sliding downwards. I mean, we had Benny was the most successful export in terms of honors won. Stephen Pina had a good career. Lucas, for me, was still head and shoulders above everybody else for the difficult time he endured in his first season or first 2 seasons, to go on to become captain of Leeds and become a legend in Leeds still today. He's considered one of the all-time greats. Post mid 2000s, we started waning, and at one stage, like you're saying, we had players in all teams in all the top leagues in the world. Now we can't even get a play on the bench of a Premier League. That's how far back we've fallen.
I just got a quick one for Jive. You were under 23. You played for SA under 23, right? In the tournament in Morocco. Was it Morocco?
That was under 20.
Under 20. How did the fans there how receptive were they of South Africa? Because it was at the time also, where, like Riza said, we were evolving. How would you, and obviously representing your country, how did you feel? Like how did the people embrace it?
And I think
who did you play with?
A lot of people don't realize that's where Benny got signed by Ajax. Benny, and I know Benny since he was 14. So he played for 7, and that's when he went to play. When he came to us, when we came with the national team to Morocco, and what made the Ajax scouts look at him was our first game against Ivory Coast. We beat them 1-0, and I still remember that game very, very well. Didier Drogba was in that team. Didier Zakora was in his team. There was a striker called Solomon Kalou who went on to play for Feyenoord and then Chelsea, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, yeah. We beat them 1-0. We beat them 1-0. Benny scored the goal, and we went all the way to the final that time, and we lost to a Moroccan team. led by Mustafa Haji's brother, but one of Mustafa Haji. Remember Mustafa Haji used to have the ponytail?
Yeah.
Morocco in France, yeah. Played for Morocco in the World Cup.
You guys lost against Raja Casablanca.
No, we lost to so we lost. Yeah, basically. So we lost to Morocco.
For some reason.
No, because at the time in that tournament they had 9 players from Raja Casablanca that represented.
From Raja Casablanca, yes.
Yeah.
No, and it was quite and that got us to go to the first under-20 World Cup in Malaysia. And I was telling Sush and Khalid that time, and in that tournament we finished third in our group, but we had the likes of France. I think we had a very strong Japanese team, and that's the tournament where Michael Owen came to life, where he won highest goal scorer before and from there he made that England team to go to France '98, if I'm not mistaken.
Did our under-23s not beat Brazil in the Olympic Games?
No, that was the Olympics in 2000.
Right. Okay.
That was the Olympics in 2000. So, but you know what? If you just go back to our history, I think we've been out of isolation for what, more than 23, 24, 5 years, whatever the case may be. We've had more coaches than those years. We've gone through more than 22 Bafana coaches. So how do you progress?
And there's no. I mean, this is a completely separate show, which we do need to have about the state of the decline of South African football. That's definitely a topic we need to talk about, because, I mean, we're the only nation who hasn't progressed year in, year out. I mean, you can have a slump for a few years, but we've been getting steadily worse on an international level, to the point where, you know, it's. I mean, beating Malawi and beating Botswana nowadays is considered a result for us.
Yeah, but I was driving home yesterday, and Shireen was telling me, but why is everyone celebrating when we just beat Ethiopia?
Exactly.
You know, I mean, Ethiopia in my father's time, and when we grew up, we should be beating Ethiopia with our under-20s.
But considering the run Bafana have been on in the last maybe year or two, this is a huge result for Bafana.
No, this is a massive. This is a massive, and I think what also played our part. Ethiopia never had fans yesterday. It was an empty stadium, so it helped them also. So, but let's see. You know, that African top.
You know, that's a very, very valid point. I mean, all of a sudden, I mean, and my son contacted me yesterday. Hey, Dad, Bafana won, and I said, "What did they win?" And he said, "It's a World Cup qualifier." And I said, "Who did they beat? Zimbabwe?" And he goes, "No, they beat." That's the point I'm making, right? The interest that has been lost, and the fact that that result has given us, given Bafana, there's some hope. Hopefully, we get another favorable result this coming week, okay, and then take it to the next game, and there's more interest in the national team, okay. And I've named one player, and he wasn't even in the team, but there you go. And hopefully, you know, by the end of October, I'll probably know 2 or 3 more players in the Bafana side. But that's the point I'm making is, you know, somebody said we could rattle off the 23 and probably the 28-man squad in them days in 95, 96, 97, 98. We could rattle them off, right? Now we can't even make heads or tails on who they are. I mean, I was flabbergasted when I read now that we've got Hugo Bruce as our coach. I wasn't even aware of that. How long has he been the coach?
I don't think you're the only one. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he was going to a Pirates and Sundowns game, and the security didn't want to allow him in. They didn't know who's he.
They didn't allow him into the stadium, Rizak. Can you believe that?
But that's horrific, man. That's tragic, man.
The national coach and people don't know who he is. Well, there we go.
Yeah, it's like, can you imagine this type of thing in Europe? You got a big coach going in there and they say, you know, we don't know who you are.
Guys, so on that point, you think back when you were all snot cops, when we were all snot copper, okay? And you remember the days of the FPL, and I'm talking about Jive's dad's days. And I refer to, because I mean, what he did for football in the old FPL. I remember that because, you know, I was in the young Dynamos team and I played with Zayn Musa, and I'll never forget, we were playing this curtain raiser ahead of the Dynamos Durban City game. Dynamos were top of the league. Durban City were undefeated. They came to Mill Park Stadium. We still had a curtain raiser game against Kaizer Chiefs, and we beat them actually. Zain Musa was unbelievable. And those days in our community, football was big, right?
Yeah.
It was huge, and everybody was a Dynamos fan, except a few of us, because we were Highlands Park fans. Because I grew up being a Highlands Park fan, and I was never ever going to change that, and that was, you know, came down from my dad. But you know, I don't know how many can actually recall those days where, you know, you had your own football club, you know, much like in England, you know. Man United is a bad example because most fans are from outside of Manchester. But let's take a Brighton and Hove Albion. Let's take a Brentford, for example. Let's take an Ipswich Town. Those are fans that are from the area, from within close proximity of that football team and the club grounds, and they support and they feel every part and fiber of that particular football team, right? In them days, the communities around Fordsburg, Mayfair, Roshni, Azardel felt that for Dynamos. Okay. And then we had a kind of opportunity again under Najib when he had the rebirth of a different type of Dynamos that also were quite successful, had some fantastic players, you know, in their team as well. It kind of gave some life and ambition. But, you know, it seems like today the only way you're going to get that back into a kind of, you know, get some excitement back in the community is if a franchise is sold, bought, invested in, and you almost do what's happening at Newcastle United in England, you know, in South Africa. You take a Jomo Cosmos, for example, okay, and you go, all right, we're going to invest in this football club, and we're going to get them back into the South African Premier League, and we're going to lure the best players from the continent, okay, and maybe a few players from Europe who are not as visible to us as they are, you know, in the Yugoslavias or in France or Austria, etc., and they start playing football here. I don't think that it would be great if it does happen, but I don't think that's going to happen for a long time. Or if ever.
I think the closest we have, okay, not in our community, but is Maritzburg United, who is owned by Farouk Karodia. And there is there's a lot of Malay boys there that are playing from Cape Town. So that I think is the closest we currently have in the PSL, which is in Maritzburg. Which, if you talk about community-based team, you know.
And you know, for me, like that need to break. They need to break that domination. You know, of Sundowns, Pirates, Chiefs. Okay, you know, if that domination is broken and other clubs, and not just Maritzburg United, but other teams come in and start giving some impetus, you know, and bring about some excitement and something to follow in the South African game. Listen, guys, there's more money being thrown at football up to today than any other sport. Rugby, cricket, we still have the most money in South African football. Okay, but we've seen more success in rugby and cricket to some extent, and somebody's got to answer questions as to why.
You know, the simple thing is filling stadiums, and that's what Abdul Bamji did. You know, charisma to fill stadiums. That's the issue, you know, filling the stadiums. I mean, you guys know, Jive, you know. Lisa, you probably know also Ellis Park, these type of games. Yo, I mean, you know, at the crowd, the players used to feed on the crowd. But like you say, for another show.
For another time.
Yeah, you know, for another show, for another time. MK, okay, I think your testing went well.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out why the Instagram, it's a separate program. It came on shortly, but then it went off again. So we'll figure that out. Be online about 10-15 minutes before, please, so we can do all our testing before. We'll start exactly at 8 o'clock. I'll make sure Ali and Sabia have the teams ready. Just remember,
didn't you say 7:30? Sorry, because you said Rizal got load shedding.
No, that was today.
Was that today? Oh, that was for today.
It was supposed to be load shedded today. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have the schedule for tomorrow just yet. So, what time are we meant to do this tomorrow evening?
8 to 9.
Well, fingers crossed.
Hopefully nothing. Yeah.
Some additional duas. You know, I wouldn't want to be sit on my throne with my mobile phone. You know.
Yeah. Enjoy the Spain versus France tonight.
Two things for tomorrow, Jive. Make sure you've got your phone higher up, because we're looking at you from the bottom right now, right? That's the one thing. And if you're not using headphones, just make sure that there's no other disturbing sound around you. But otherwise, we're good. I think everything is fine. The testing went okay. Audio was good. I'm going to test the recording out and see how that worked.
Okay. Thanks, guys. So we'll see. So MK will just send us a reminder tomorrow. We'll come on about 7:45.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the link during the day. You just log on before that by about 2:45, and then we'll just run a few tests before we go live.
And myself, you and Sush wearing the t-shirts tomorrow. What?
Up to you. Up to you guys. You can
wear
wear if you want.
The collar like Kentana tomorrow.
As long as you wear
no specific dress code.
Okay.
Do you know, guys, you know what's interesting, and I appreciate you guys getting me on as a guest. And the nice thing about tomorrow is that I'm not United, Liverpool, or Arsenal, okay, which is great. And, you know, I can reflect on the team that I've chosen for the 90s because there's no biasness in there at all. Yes, it's a team that has got, you know, 70% of United players. And then I've got other players as well. But, you know, I think I've made a decision based on my recollection of the 90s and the success factor that, you know, has led to football in England being so instrumental to today in terms of excitement at a football ground, especially post-COVID, and you see fans in their droves and stadiums being filled up and clubs saying, well, you know, our stadiums are not big enough. I mean, Aston Villa want to increase their stadium to 60,000. I'm thinking to myself, you know, it wasn't a few seasons ago, we were lucky to get 38,000 into a stadium, and now we're thinking of getting 60,000 people into the stadium. So, you know, the 90s was so pivotal. I mean, and that's why I remember it with fondness. And my team is based on, not necessarily that I like them, the players, a lot of them, because they were Man United. But I can't not admire what they did for football. I mean, those guys, they were brilliant.
Likewise.
That's why Khani didn't want to do a team of the 80s.
My team, team also. I mean, if it had to be on emotion, it would have been 11 United players. But I had to pick a team on merit here, and I think I have selected a team on merit. So
finally, you're picking on merit, Mr. MK. You are like Safa.
Always.
Yeah. Maybe if we picked the team of the 80s, you would pick oaks like Mark Robbins and Frank Stapleton and Norman Whiteside, all these oaks.
No, look, from the 80s, there's only 2 United players that will go into the team. It's Brian Robson and Mark Hughes. That's it. I'm sorry, Paul McGrath. Brian Robson and Paul McGrath.
You can do the 80s.
It was a Liverpool,
you can do the 80s.
Liverpool decade.
Yeah, you can do the 80s show now and wrap it up and just pick 11 Liverpool guys and call it a night.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Right, Riza.
Hey guys, so we'll meet tomorrow, inshallah.
Yeah, send you guys the link tomorrow.
Okay.
Thanks. The testing went well. Just those few cosmetic things for tomorrow. But otherwise, everything's good.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. MK.
Thanks,
Riza. Salam,
tomorrow. Send out your adverts tomorrow. I'll send those to you guys. Send them out on social media on your various platforms. Let's get viewers on. They can view us live on YouTube.
Yeah, but please send it to us in time, not like half an hour before, please, man.
I've sent them a reminder now. I'm waiting for them. I've sent the designers a reminder.
Okay.
It's because you don't want to pay them. That's why.
All right, sure.
See you guys. Take it easy. Assalamu alaikum.
Right, these guys. Right.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay, Riza. Looking forward to chatting tomorrow.
Yeah, likewise, guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Khani, just a quick one. Is this one being live as well? It's going to be recorded on our channel.
Which one? Test. Tomorrow?
Yeah.
The test, I don't know. We can decide.
I think we should, because we had a great conversation on Bob. Let it roll. I think, you know what? Go for it.
Let's see how it goes. Yeah. We had a good chat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. The only thing that was missing was a Coke and a packet of chips outside Kentucky, Riza.
Yeah, that is well, right?
Yeah. Right,
nostalgia.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
Nostalgia. All right, chaps. Thank you so much. Take care.